On today's episode of Project Pundits Unplugged, the reason why episodes are so long.
Do we want to keep it relatively short? Can we do like a half an hour episode? Are you capable of doing that?
No.
The magic of Christmas.
Hey, did you get my gift?
Jim, it would not be Christmas. Christmas doesn't start until I get the finger from Jim in some form.
That's going to be our tradition. I mean,
Jim continues to bloviate.
If you don't bloviate, we can do it.
I have like 70 items that even if you put a minute each of them, that wouldn't cover it. All right, hey everybody, welcome back. We have not disappeared. We have not forever gone away from the Project Pundits.
Jim just assumed I burned up here in Southern California. That's most people assume that I am dead.
You know,
what's going on.
What I've learned about if you have a good relationship with a male friend, you could literally go years without talking to them, and then like you start talking, it's like you just spoke yesterday.
That is absolutely true. At least with me and I feel like me and you, we could not talk for like 3 years and then just sit down and pick up like it was nothing. That's absolutely
which was
true.
about the last time Braden decided to talk to me 3 years ago or so.
That's pretty much, and that's what happened, right? It was just right there.
Braden prioritizes like family and stuff. Like it's a little
stupid,
ridiculous.
Utterly the most. Yeah, I never have got my priorities right. You're right.
There may be an episode that I did not publish. I did not finish going through. I may end up publishing this episode. I think this was the post. It was a post-election episode. So I still have that.
Is that one sitting out there somewhere? Okay.
I don't know. I think there's some things I said. I don't know. Well but I'm going to end up just silent publishing that one. But anyway, so we're going to treat this as season 3, episode 1, a fresh start for everybody in the country and the world. And we figured we would do a little catch up on current events. We obviously can't cover every current event, given that every day there's 6 headline stories of crazy stuff happening. But want to talk a little bit through some of that because it's interesting. There's some implications. And then we did want to do a predictions episode. So the point of this is we want to kind of talk through that and then talk about some of our predictions for 2025.
Do we need to revisit Jim's?
Because
you knew that's coming, right, Jim?
You did this to me last year.
I'm not going to sit still. And I'm going to do it again. Absolutely. Let's look at that's part of the fun is to see how did your predictions
go. I did not go back through that. I should have done that. We could do that for the next episode, like have a part where we revisit, how accurate we were. I'm sure it was very accurate.
Insert Nostradamus mysterious music here.
It used to be called Nostrabuscus, as I mentioned, I think, in a previous episode.
That was my last name.
Nostrabuscus when I was at Lycos because I used to predict a lot of internet things, so people used to just...
Really?
It was a wide label, but I was right most of the time, so I'll take it.
That's excellent. Let's talk current events.
Before that, I just, I think Braden was not in the fires. He's sort of not too far outside of it, though.
Yeah. And
he definitely gets because I got some texts about the Santa Ana winds and how crazy they were. But yeah, I'm just curious also your kids' reaction, because you guys must know people who are in those areas in the Palisades and other. It's not that how far away from there are you? I'm like not too. Yeah,
so there were two main fires that at least we're seeing and that were visible from where we are. So there's a fire up in Pasadena, fairly close to my parents' house, and then there's a fire further south and west, Palisades, that was there. We definitely see tons of smoke from both of those, and just in case anyone's never been in California in the late fall, early winter, middle winter, the Santa Ana winds that everyone's talking about, that you probably see it on the news or whatever. But those are a regular thing, especially where we live. We live at actually right the mouth. We live on the foothills of these fairly tall mountains, 8,000-foot mountains, and there's a pass right on the opening of where our town is and a neighboring town is And we regularly get 80, 90, 100 mile an hour gusts that will shake our house. So when the Santa Anas are blowing, our whole house will shake like an earthquake, like actually. The scary part about that is that because California is also desert, I don't know that most people realize that Southern California is a desert. The climate is desert. They say Mediterranean, but it's just dry. It's desert. And if a fire starts in those conditions, what's really scary is it just can spread so fast. And that's what happened in Palisades is it started like at 2:00 in the morning or something when people were asleep, and just, you hear spread like wildfire. This is scarier than spreading like wildfire. This is spreading like Santa Ana winds wildfire. And so incredibly fast moving. So our only impact is just smoke and air quality. Beautiful sunsets. I mean, there's your silver lining, but
and the winds blow towards the ocean, right? So it's generally, or do they back? Yeah, it's
a reverse of what they normally. So normally you get an onshore coming from the ocean across the other way, and in this paradigm, the winds reverse and they go that way. So really scary in terms of the amount of damage. I'm sure folks have seen on newscasts and whatever else how quickly it moved, and how just whole neighborhoods were just blacked out. And I heard insider information from there's a fire chief who was having some conversations, who essentially had said, I think they've identified now 30 that have passed away, but he said there's many, many more that are missing, and it's going to be, he's only expecting that toll to climb as they find more and as they're able to go into those areas and do deeper looks, and just scary because the warning system. I think that's something, if you're talking about a prediction, I think something that's going to come out of this particular incident is they're going to look to see what is a warning system that they can do to break through, especially with appliances or other things that people have when they're asleep, right? Because that was the tricky part, was you can't go house to house knocking on doors when there's a fire in the area. You got to find some way of screaming it, getting it through. How can I break into your cell phone?
Like the emergency alert. Do you guys not have the emergency? Well, it's a national thing, but the emergency alert system.
Like they do, but maybe not. Not everyone has a cell phone on. Heaven forbid, Braden doesn't keep his cell phone anywhere near him when he sleeps. Right? Like, yeah, it depends on how people are doing it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they come up at the back end of this with some alert system that maybe is a little more capable of waking people up to let them know there's some danger that's happening. Be interesting to see. The other thing that was interesting to me, maybe you could share. So we weren't really close. We had tons of fires around us during the summer. We were surrounded by fires during the summer, but these weren't close to us. But I had every person who I've known in the last 20 years who's not in California reach out to me to say, are you alive still? So I'm assuming the coverage was basically making it sound like all of Southern California was on fire. Like,
no, I think it's just a typical American thing where we can't even place Florida on a map. So, like,
can you name any country on this map?
Honestly, my geography is so horrible. I can't name anything. Like,
try
nothing.
Naming something.
Is it South Africa?
Nope.
So it's California and LA. And I think when you describe where you are, you do say you're outside of LA. So, like, sometimes, so it's not, when they're talking about this stuff, I mean, it is relatively close. It's not like you're in Sacramento or like whatever, but
True. But in Massachusetts, close would be like 2 blocks away, as opposed to in California. Right. You could say I'm 100 miles away from something. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. The fire's pretty scary.
No, and when you see the footage, and I don't know if you caught some of this. There was one of the firemen had GoPro footage. He wore a GoPro while he was firefighting, and it's scary, man. And those guys are crazy brave.
Hats off.
And then there were these arguments like, why couldn't you use helicopters? Like, you can't use helicopters in like 60 mile an hour shears. Like it'd be like, you can't, right? So there was limited ability. I hope there's a lot of change that comes out of it. It's not just BS change. There's architectural standards. And then there's the whole thing about the insurance policies. And it's just, right. We've talked about insurance and how it's supposed to work and the risk sharing. And again, you don't it's just we could spend a whole episode
I will
on
say
that.
one interesting thing. So we're in a high fire risk area where we are, and all of our houses, at least in the development where I am, are almost they're not, no house is fireproof, but there's very little to burn. The roofs are all tile, and the exteriors are all stucco. You could throw embers at our house for a long time before anything would catch on fire. Now there are, wood eaves, and there's a couple of pieces of things here that you could light up, but it would take a prolonged period of exposure to just throwing stuff at it before it would light on fire. And that's deliberate because they wouldn't insure these houses unless they had those standards, at least where we live.
Yeah.
Now, if you're deeper in the city, that's not something that you have to worry about as much, but we're right next to wilderness area and the mountains that's kind
so they had there was a lot of footage of this one house that this architect built that again, I think it was some level of materials, but he also had a stone-based wall around his property so it didn't roll. He didn't have grass. He used fine gravel for his yard and things, but it looked very beautiful, right, and everything else, but like everything was torched and that house like was unscathed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there was a lot of coverage of that. So yeah, the fires were and they're not done, right? There's still some active fires, pretty active.
There's always active fires in California. Any day there's active fires in California, but those aren't put out. The fire that was closer to, I think the Palisades fire is out, but there's still two others that are still active. I think they're mostly contained, but so driving to my parents' house on Sunday, and you can just still see orange all across the West. They're still just active fire burning. Yeah, definitely.
So of that, and then I think just wanted to kind of get your reaction to a bunch of stuff. So I don't. So
I'm going to put on my reaction face here. Go ahead. I'm ready.
Yeah, do the face. But I think so it was interesting. I was just thinking through a prediction episode. So Braden and I said, let's just think through some predictions that we had and everything else. And part of what I've realized, it's very hard to build prediction models now based upon the pace of exponential change in certain things, and in some cases, be existential. There's some things that are possible there, but yeah. So I think obviously Trump getting elected on his. Did you watch the inauguration? First of all, did you watch any of the inauguration?
No.
Oh, that's disappointing. So I can't get you to react to that.
Well, you can tell me about here's the deal, Joe. On Inauguration Day, I started reading. I wasn't really interested in the fanfare. Whether or not it was, a president that was my favorite or not favorite, I wouldn't really usually watch inauguration anyway. But on day one, he signed some, 35 executive orders, right? Those I read, and there's some really interesting ones in that grouping. But the inauguration itself.
So the inauguration itself, and again, this is very Trump-esque and like who was there and all that. What I found, and this is what I don't. There's a number of things I don't like about Trump, but like one of which is like it's just like there's a time and place for things. Okay, have respect for the country, have respect for the transition. Just get through it. Thank the prior person and move on. He can't help himself. So in his speech, so Joe Biden stayed positive through the whole thing, shook everybody's hands. Like they had their traditional tea together, whatever. All of that stuff. And then it's all going well. The speeches were good, I thought, up leading to it. So then Trump gets up to give his speech, and he just eviscerates and basically calls everything was a catastrophe. It was the worst. Like it was a dress down, and it's just so uncomfortable, so inappropriate. Like it just wasn't needed, right? But that's how he operates, right?
I mean, I don't think anyone would be surprised to see that coming out. Right?
And he made reference to being shot and that he didn't get killed. So seems like it was a message from God. Did he still have a
Band-Aid on his ear when he or no?
No, but he referenced it.
Wait. I predicted. Now I got to find out if my prediction was right or not. I predicted when he got shot. Do you remember this? We did an episode just like the day that it happened. And I said, Jim, he is going to have the largest human bandage that a human can have. I was expecting maybe even to be like wrapped or something, and he's gonna wear that for like 3 months or something. Did that happen?
No, he did wear a bandage for a few weeks and whatnot, but yeah.
Okay, a few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know the extent of the injuries, if that it
was a
merited.
glance. I mean, so it didn't need to be there probably, but
terrifying though. Terrifying.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of interesting stuff to me about the involvement of business and much more in government now, which in general, I'm more in favor of like a business management style to some of the government at this point, given how out of control things have gotten and whatnot, right? So more sensible approach.
Jim, are you becoming a libertarian like me?
By the way, I am like, other than libertarians generally, and I'm just going to offend everybody today again. Libertarians, if you read they're a little crazy as an organized thing. Like the general concept, I'm aligned to. I think people who think a certain way, it's like minimal amount of government to support. Like I am a libertarian, but if you read they take it a little too far. If you ever read their platform,
yeah,
it's
several
a little
times.
But yes,
it's to the extreme. But yeah. I a lot of their principles and so I mean, if I'm excited for anything, creating a department whose sole purpose is to try to make the government more efficient and putting a non-insider, on that. And now I get it. He's ruffling feathers all over the place. The recent buyout offer, have you followed that one? Like that one's
I did not. So I saw it, but I didn't
Jim.
see what the that was
okay. So
the offer. So yeah, explain, because I saw the headline, but I didn't
this is Jim's reaction. So Jim, give me your neutral face so that you can then react really big. But what it was there was a memo that went out, and what was unique was it came directly, and I have to remember the office that sent it, but normally each agency individually will send HR type things to their employees. This one bypassed all of the agency HRs and came directly from OPM, maybe? Office of...
So Doja reports into an agency. It might be that agency that is there, or it might be Office of Personnel Management. OPM, it could have been. I'm gonna flub it. Whatever it is. I don't know which one it is. But it came directly from that agency or from office to all of the agencies everywhere, employees, not through their HRs. Yep.
And essentially said, we're giving you the opportunity to resign. If you resign your position, you will get paid through September or something like that. So essentially it was a buyout with an 8-month, stipulation. And but this isn't like some hoax or something. This actually was a memo. It's readable. You can go and find it, anywhere on the internet right now. And essentially, it had a whole bunch of people perplexed. The unions immediately said, "No, don't do it, because they don't want to lose humanity. They don't want to lose positions, right?"
They're expecting 5 to 10%. I just pulled it up. 5 to 10% of people to accept the offer.
There's a certain number of people
savings,
and think about it. Say that I was close anyway, right?
Yep.
I take that in our. Let's say that I was planning on retiring in September. I'd be like, you just told me I don't have to work for the next 8 months. Gee, let me think about it. And you're going to get lots of people taking that, I bet, and moving to the private sector. So it'll be interesting to see what comes as a result of that. That's a small. 5 to 10%, as big as it sounds, is still
$100 billion in savings it would yield.
Wow,
that's the number.
Extraordinary. Interesting. Doge. So, but my point is, that's my point with all this is to say unorthodox approaches and ruffling feathers. But I guarantee you, Elon's going to be, he won't care. He'll be like, yeah, I'm totally okay with ruffling feathers. I don't care.
And I don't want to get into this debate because, and this is what's changed with me with this election. Like, I felt a lot of existential angst the last time Trump was in office. I really did. And don't get me wrong, there's an underlying simmering worry about there are certain things that can be done that could put us at catastrophic risk. Yeah, there's controls and there's still balance of powers. And the Supreme Court, as much as I don't agree with a lot of the rulings, they do take their job seriously. Again, I think I just had this conversation with a couple of people. It's just like the media on both sides, right? Again, this is both sides thing, but like, why do you have to exaggerate something that is already exaggerated? You don't have to go above and beyond the
They can't
psychotic.
help themselves, Jim.
Right, but
they can't help themselves.
But they like you don't have to. It's already bad. Like, and you're basically taking snippets out of things. Some people think they're in this war that it's if they don't do everything to do, that's going to be the end of everything. I get it, but my Lord, I'm like, you don't have, and Fox does the same thing. They're off. You're winning. Like, what are you doing? Like,
long gone are the days where you could simply actually neutrally report something and let someone draw their own conclusions. That's not really
that's
an
what I'm saying with Trump.
Anymore.
Like, it's like you don't even have to say anything.
Except for here, where Project Pundits gives you the facts and nothing but the facts. No. We do not try to tell you your opinions here at Project Pundit.
That's right.
I'm just letting you know. Give us another one. What's another one?
No, but that Elon thing with the whole Nazi thing, like so much time was spent on that Nazi salute thing, and it's just like it wasn't a Nazi, like whatever. My point being with the people. So we talked about these cuts, but like if you listen to a species like we don't want to be inhumane about it, like. Again, the guy's just hyper, right? He's like, we give him 2 years of pay, whatever it is. But in the end, that's still a better outcome for everybody. Like, we don't want to be inhumane, but like, we've got to take care of these problems. Anyways, no. So some of the other stuff, where was the thing? So yeah, we talked about like tons of cost reduction things that are going on. So tied to that, the return to work mandates where everybody has to go back to the office. Now,
yep.
The union signed a bunch of deals, so he's not going to win on a bunch of stuff where it was in a contract. Like you're not, if you signed a contract that says you don't have to.
And that was in the order where it said, except where, legally there was some caveat in there. Right. Something like that.
But, have we really crossed over into a new world where like forcing people to go into an office on a government level?
Well, hang on, Jim. We might have a different opinion about this. And now I'm curious. So I think both you and I feel fairly strongly that the world is moving towards you work wherever you want to. It's sort of a free, general
seems to be, but
area.
there's pushback in some industries and
others. I know.
Yeah.
I just meant your and I's personal opinions on kind of how we approach things. Maybe not. Maybe I didn't take Trump's order as him necessarily actually caring about whether people were working remotely or not. I not at all. I purely took this as additional incentive, and this was reinforced by that buyout offer, in that I thought it was largely incentive to encourage people to, if they didn't appreciate working for the government, to go work in the private sector and no longer work for the government anymore.
Yeah. Yes, that's the net effect.
An incentive to leave
of it. And, I think the other part was, and I do believe this, that there's a number of people who are in those situations who aren't actually working 40 hours a week and whatever it is, right? And there's waste in that. There's waste in that process. Well,
I just didn't sense that was the primary. I sensed it was much more about just generally getting people through dissatisfaction.
Another thing, right?
Leave.
To create another incentive and whatnot. So
an incentive, exactly.
Yep. I think, do
you disagree with that, or do you think that it was actually?
Yes, I don't think it was just that. I think there are people who taken advantage of the situation, and there isn't much oversight and monitoring. I guess the net effect is the same thing. You don't want waste, right? So
it can be, and right, whether they leave or whether they whatever it is, but I think so. Let's say that it ended up being, the reason I think this was incentive is, imagine people say, fine, I'll go into the office, right? Most of these people under this order, what they would do is they would say, okay, if they're within 50 miles of an office, they would simply go to the office that's 50 miles, that's closest to them within 50 miles. None of their team, no one, there's not going to be any increase in accountability at all.
Right. From that perspective. Right.
It's not going to change. I don't think it's going to change that aspect of it, like accountability or improve people's hours not spent doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think the only thing that it's going to do is provide incentive for people to, only because
the alternative would be for them to go in an office where their team isn't, sit in a desk where no one cares whether they sit in that desk or not. No one's going to know. And, you clock in and great. Now you're working from a remote facility that's just not your home. Yeah. It's not going to be any different.
And some companies are doing the same thing. It's just fascinating. They make people go in once a week, and they go into an office, and it's exactly that. They just dial into meetings from the office. I think, just current state with Trump stuff. There's so many of these executive orders. I think the withdrawal of I think we withdrew from the WHO. I think that was that, and the Paris Climate Accords.
Did that happen already?
I know Paris. Yeah,
I knew it was campaign promises, so those happened like within. Okay.
I think WHO was there. I know the Paris climate thing. You pulled us back out of that. Okay. And then there was the energy. There's a worthy set of discussions just on energy. Again, the interesting thing about, I don't think most Americans know how much of the world's oil supply we actually have. Like in this country, we have 20%, over 20% of the world's oil supply is in this country.
The largest port, it's way more than Saudis and everything.
Yeah.
But do you know where most of that is, Jim?
You mean in regard to the type of oil?
Yeah.
Like shale oil, you mean? Or
it's shale. It's all shale. Most of that oil comes from fracking. Yeah, exactly. But it's all shale oil. It's not
all shale, but yeah.
No, it's not. But shale oil is like this huge resource. Absolutely. No, I don't know if people, you're right. I don't know if people are aware of that. I agree.
Yeah. So energy independence, the whole thing, a lot of it's just fluffy words like nuclear, right? So that's finally on a comeback. Oh my Lord.
If this was me and I could just wave a wand, I would do 80%
and it's happening.
Nuclear.
And it's funny, it's how the whole happening. No, it's happening now. It's the tide just turning, but it's like you can't just turn on a dime. It takes 30 years to put a reactor up. So and we don't have all of the, China's gotten really efficient with small reactors. China's good at it. We're not. I mean, not like we couldn't buy the expertise.
China also just tells the people what they're going to do, though. It's different.
But there are some breakthroughs about, how you do it right. You don't have to jump through as many regulatory hoops and all. So that's another thing, cutting out the regulations. They are insane in this country. They're insane.
I live in California.
Yeah,
I know.
Multiplied by 100. So crypto, right? They're going to focus on kind of legitimizing cryptocurrencies. Interesting. AI, rolling back the bill that was, the executive order on AI controls. There was some good stuff in there and whatnot. I'm kind of happy. So I hope I end up on the end of whatever this period of time is. I missed it's one of those things. I always thought about opportunities in your life where you can catch waves. I think of it as like a wave coming in and you trying to catch the wave as it's going, like the 90s and the internet boom. I feel like there's another wave right now and I want to catch that AI wave.
I want to be on it.
I want to be on it this time. So I think that's one thing. We're going to get tremendous growth. It's not going to be equal growth. We'll get into the economic stuff, but the Fed is fighting strong to stay independent. I know you like that. They're pretty rational about the rate structure. Oh, and then what the steady rate is, there's new thinking that the new steady state rate is materially different than where it used to, what do they call it, the balance rate or the even rate. And they think it might be right where we're at.
Short-term, the short-term lending rate, I think, is what it is.
Yeah, and it's usually, I forget what it used to be, whether it was 3%, is kind of base.
It was lower than it is right now.
Yes.
And I think it should be. I think it's a very poor decision. But then I also, now it's interesting, they also have been doing, cuts, which I just think is incredibly irresponsible. At least at this last meeting, they realized, they're like, oops, we shouldn't have done that. And they stopped cuts and they said they're not doing cuts.
Yeah, and the market is priced in 50 basis points this year is what the common thinking is. And now after this, the thinking is there's going to be no cuts this year unless something catastrophic or
and I at least applaud them in that they realized their mistake. I wouldn't have made the cuts in the first, but I think they were way too quick to do that. Whether that was, so now there's your conspiracy theories right there to say, okay, who influenced them? what were they doing just prior to the election? Because it was all cut before the election. Now that Trump's there, no, we're stopping all cuts. Like, interesting. You could think about it. I'm not going to.
It's interesting timing. Yeah.
I'll let people think about it, but I will say I applaud that they stopped cutting. I don't agree with their assessment of what they think the new rate should be. Inflation is still out of control. Say what you want. Inflation is out of control. Prices are not in control.
Let's be careful with out of control. It's not out of control. It's not runaway inflation. It's been lowering down. It's still like, but what's interesting? So the U.S. economy has bucked the world again. Like, it's bizarre. We are outpacing by far pretty much the rest of the world again. Like, the numbers that came out, it's great. Like, the job numbers, they're still pretty amazing.
They slowed down and they revised a couple recently. I think there are some, particularly not job numbers, but durable good orders. I don't know if you're following some of the more recent economic data.
So that just came out today. It was off the charts. The consumer sentiment on that was that it was the strongest consumer sentiment on purchasing durable goods.
Not consumer sentiment. I'm talking about orders for durable goods. Was down and then revised further down the last 2 months.
It was
controversy on Project Pundits. I can send you a link here, but the durable goods orders were down 2.5%, which was, and the previous month it was down another 2%. So there's a kind of a scary trend right now in the manufacturing sector. I wouldn't say necessarily that manufacturing is the key, kind of precursor to major challenges, but it's one of them. I think if we're kind of floating into the predictions place, I would say you're going to see a slowing of the economy this
we're going to get into that. I think I think part of the other challenges is floating. So let me think. Consumer spending was still strong. So the other one was tariffs, right? And the threat of them.
Jim, what are we back in the days of Smoot-Hawley? Like, I heard some interesting analysis, by the way, on that, and I can't remember who it was, but it was well reasoned. They were talking about because they, like myself, right? Just to declare my, approach. Tariffs are always a bad idea. There are very few situations in which I think a tariff on something else is a good idea. If someone else wants to subsidize, and the primary, I'll say the biggest argument that at least Trump and a lot of other people make for tariffs is that some other country is somehow, they're subsidizing with their government funds the activities of an industry, of, people who are doing it, whatever, such that it makes it cheaper for them to produce. And then when it comes here, they flood the market.
Or not equal labor standards and things like that. You have slave labor.
That too. Right? So, too. Yep. I hate to say this, but who the biggest who benefits the most from that
American
situation?
Consumer. Yeah.
It's us.
I know.
They are literally paying us to buy their goods, and we want to stop that. Now that's a little bit cynical of me in some ways, and there's nuance there. There is nuance, interestingly, there's some industries where I say you do probably want to keep some of those industries alive. Steel, I don't know, some that might be
drug manufacturing, steel, other critical infrastructure for
critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
And interestingly, there was, I think it was, I don't know if it was Trump or there was some group that put a halt to a deal where we were going to essentially,
sell.
It was Biden,
the Pennsylvania steel to Japan,
to Japanese group, right? And to me, it's hilarious because I say, okay, A, they're an ally. B, let's say that something happened during some crisis in wartime, but we would just commandeer the assets anyway. It's not like it, and they were offering essentially injections of capital and reinvestment to revitalize these things. Like, it didn't make any sense to me why you would stop it.
I saw a deeper analysis of it, and of course, I saw the United Steelworkers president was talking about that as well, about some of the other changes they were going to make. They were going to shut down certain plants, which generally unions hate that anyways, even if they're if they're the right thing to do or
Doesn't
whatever.
matter.
But it was the and again, I'm no expert, but it was there was manufacturing processes that build better steel but are less cost effective, and they were talking about shutting those plants down and going with a different method, but it didn't produce as quality of steel. So that was interesting. I could see that. I did not know, but
and you're talking about someone who's really ignorant and totally uninformed about any of that. I know we've been going here for.
So let's talk about jobs, and then we'll get into predictions. Okay, so you have the tariffs or the threat of tariffs and potentially tariffs. You have supply manufacturers, I think, of steel. Ironically, we were just talking about steel and building goods, which wood and some other things. So from Canada and Mexico, they've right after Trump got elected, they stopped all American orders for that until. Because Trump said by February 1st he was going to make a determination on tariffs. They stopped their orders for building materials. We're also facing a massive housing shortage. Housing starts are not where they need to be. We have private businesses buying up. So inventory is a problem. Then you get interest rates. Interest rates are high, so people aren't selling, putting their house on the market because they, if they have to buy another house, they don't want to jump their interest rate because they have very competitive interest rates. That impacts housing. And then on the other side, right, then you have immigration and the aggressive push to remove illegal immigrants, a lot of which who are participants within the construction industry. All of these things are going to, they have cross impacts on jobs, right, and whatnot. So the cost of the construction, it's going to go up, right? And so in which case, it's going to have implications jobs wise. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I'll tell you what I've observed. I have noticed, I am on LinkedIn all the time now for a number of reasons. The amount of people now that have the open to work and then who are posting about job stuff, we talked about this is through the roof. And what's interesting about this time, and I think a number of those people who have that open to work, the jobs they had, I think a lot of those jobs are gone forever.
Not coming back. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that.
So
one.
White collar, I don't remember a white collar disrupt. Now there are always disruptions with technology change and everything else. I don't remember a pure white collar. It's been almost always blue collar, one industry or another, coal, manufacturing, whatever it is, service. I don't know what the implications are of having a white collar disruption and a change. Inevitably, the transformation will make its way back, right? Because technology creates new industries and whatnot. I hate to say it, but some of these people, I know I've talked to a number of people helping them connect who've been out of work for 6 to 8 months or longer. And, we've gotten into a whole bunch of other things. And I do want to loop back to this, but that's one of my predictions. Some of those jobs ain't coming back.
Yeah, I think particularly and AI, fitting a lot of this in the big picture, you're going to see a lot of white collar jobs related to, and I'm trying to think of the category that I would call it, metadata processing or metadata. It's essentially around any job whose focus is on taking data in, processing it by some sort of rules or enhancements, and then sharing that data with someone else. And not talking about actual data processing, but I'm using that in a very broad sense, right? So like someone gives me information and I synthesize that and generate reports, or I generate, other things, anything like that. Is just ripe for AI to come in and to say, yeah, we can automate that.
So this brings me, I actually wrote this specifically down. What you stated was perfect. This is where we're going to insert a clip.
Is you take the specifications from the customers and you bring them down to the software engineers.
Yes, that's right.
Well, then I just have to ask, why couldn't the customers just take them directly to the software people, huh?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because engineers are not good at dealing with customers. So you physically take the specs from the customer?
Well, no, my secretary does that, or the fax.
So then you must physically bring them to the software people.
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, sometimes.
What would you say you do here?
Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
Well, I take the requirements from here and I bring it to the developers. I talk to the customer. I'm a people person, damn it.
And then he's like, so you take a piece of paper and
you literally walk it over. Yes, but
I'm a people person.
But
really, I mean, in many ways, though, right? I think those types of jobs. Now, in this case, right, that's an oversimplification, but there are people's jobs who, absent having to do what I would call logical leaps, creative thinking, and even some of the creative thinking jobs,
that's
who knows?
Right. They're going to get more optimized for sure. Yep,
they will. And you know, for those who are worried, I'd say the more that you familiarize yourself with the tools to use, right? Because not all jobs are going to be replaced. Oftentimes, to your point, those capabilities will help you optimize your work and help you focus on more value-added tasks. But those who aren't able to either assimilate that into their work and work more efficiently, maybe now start doing the work of 2 or 3 people. The people who are going to survive those jobs are the ones who can say, I can assimilate these AI tools in what I do. And now I can take, 2 or 3 people's work on with the help of these tools and still add value versus, the person who says, I don't know what this AI stuff is. I just know I'd bring the report and put the cover sheet on with the facts or whatever, right?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And then there's a whole other things with the writing, copy, creative. There's a whole bunch of jobs there. And then we're talking about project management. So that was my first prediction that, unfortunately, and this is it does sound dire, but like I do think a number of those jobs are going away. Now, so that was we're jumping into the predictions part now. So that was one of mine. Do you want to hop into some of yours?
Yeah. I think let's do a political one. So I think that Trump is going to be brash and do his own thing. Is that a crazy prediction?
Oh my God.
Here's why I say that. I heard commentary that I paused to sort of think more deeply about and thought, yeah, that actually makes a little more sense. It's kind of scary. Someone had said this year Trump has already started to be more the president that he wanted to be in the first term. And, it's kind of like, well, what do we mean by that? Essentially, he's no longer thinking of a second term. He allowed people apparently to rein him in. So if you want scary,
I know.
He was reined in apparently, but I can see there being potential for, just him taking whatever road that he wants to. Interestingly, Obama did this his second term as well, but Obama, because he didn't have the support of a Democratic, I forget, they didn't have the Senate, or there was some parts of the government that Democrats didn't run. He did it all by executive order. It was 100% by executive order, which is unfortunate because whenever you do that, nothing you do is permanent. The next person just rips it up, right? And I'm not sure that I think anything that Trump has to do that's over the top, there'll be enough resistance in the broader governmental organizations that it won't get, if it's way out there. But I think you're still going to see a combination of some extreme executive orders as well as creative approaches. If we think Doge has done some crazy stuff in the first 2 weeks, wait till we see the rest of the year. So I'm kind of, I hate to say it, I'm kind of excited
because there's so much waste. But by the same time, I feel, because there's a human component to all of these, and hope that it's not terribly disruptive for the others involved. What's your next one?
Yeah, no, and my second one was, so again, I go back and to a Meet the Press I watched. It was I forget who it was. They're interviewing the CEO of something or other, and they're asking him about government regulations, and he had a great answer. And the bottom line was, he said, I'd rather have the regulations and know the rules, and we'll figure out how to win within the rules versus having instability and not knowing what the rules are. And so my worry is business, and I'm seeing some of this already, are going to stop their decisions and their investments during this period because it's so chaotic. You don't want to make the wrong move. The instability and chaos is, and unclear rules are gonna drive us towards, along with the job stuff, towards a recession, which is going to be counter to what
you're describing is the Ninth Circuit of Appeals, actually, and this is well known in legal circles, at least, in that businesses, to your point, they don't really care what the rules are. They just want them to be consistently applied, right? So if I have to have this kind of a policy, just tell me what kind of policy I need to have, and I'll have it. I don't care as a business, right? Maybe individually I do, but as a business, I don't care. Just I want to follow the rules. So tell me what they are consistently. And the Ninth Circuit, also known as the Ninth Circus in legal circles, it's the most it's California, Washington, Oregon, kind of the left coast. It's the most overruled court consistently by like 10 times the next closest court. And the reason is they don't ever apply the rules consistently. And they make an incredibly unfriendly business climate where businesses just say, I want to follow the rules, but if you change them every time there's a court case, then I don't have a floor that's stable underneath me. I don't want to do business. And that's why you have huge numbers of insurance groups, of all kinds of other businesses that won't operate in California.
No, they moved
because
to
it's
Texas.
too expensive.
It's one of the full places they go, and other places.
It's not safe. Yeah. As opposed to the opposite of the Ninth Circus is actually the Second Circuit, which is New York, mostly based in New York. And they're like hard-nosed, right? They're just like, look, this is the rule. If you don't like it, go pass another law and change it and we'll apply it. But we're going to apply it dead consistently. We're not going to mess around. And it's no nonsense. You go into New York courts and you're like, they're not going to find some merciful way of giving you what you want. If there's law that's been established for a long time, they're not going to go against it. It's going to be like, yeah, this is what the rule is. Follow the rules.
Which I like, right? And because that's how the country works. Like, we always trying to find ways around this, but like pass the law, No,
California, let's find a way to give them what we think is equitable, ruling, even though it screws every business afterwards for the rest of all eternity. Like, yeah, no. So economics, I'm going to say, I see, a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to predict a slowdown just generally in the economy. I also think that you're going to see housing prices fall. I do not see they've still continued to go up, Jim.
Really?
Well, here's why. So there's actually now a surplus of new homes, new home construction. I can send you
not in my world, but
there's a number. So the number of newly built homes for sale on the market, it's the highest level it's been since 2009. And home builders, they're actually having a hard time finding buyers. There's one driver for it. There's only one driver for it. It's interest rates. Interest rates are at around 7.
Interest rates and price, but yeah.
And price. And so that can only go for so long. And what happens over a period of time, just like this did 2008, is those builders can only hold on to those loans for so long, and then they'll sell them at a loss. They'll go bankrupt. The banks will hold on to those assets and then start losing money and that the natural, all of those pressures combine to start pushing on housing prices. I think you're going to start to see this year a drop in housing prices. How significant, I don't know, but looking at the surpluses that you're seeing in the market right now, especially with new home construction, I think the whole country as a whole is going to have a major correction in housing. Maybe the full thing, not this year, but the start of it, I think you're going to start to see housing prices go down this year.
So ironically, my third prediction was the exact opposite, that the housing crisis will get worse.
I love it. I love it.
There's going to be less inventory, driven again by people not leaving. Now, the new home construct.
All right, you're already
metric,
proven wrong on that one. So good, we already got you wrong.
I gotta find
Perfect.
that because I watch CNBC all day now because it's the least political show.
Edit note. Please put text here. Jim already wrong. Perfect. Thank you. Excellent.
So the interest rates being high, again, driving down inventories of existing homes for sale. The tariffs. We talked about this, the tariffs and the deportations and the white collar job loss, all combining to create a situation where, prices are high and whatnot. Now, it's interesting what you say. You're right. That reaches a tipping point at some point where the effect of it is, what you're talking about. But I could have sworn that inventory across the board, existing home, new home, plus the private equity. Private equity now is taking a point in purchasing private home sales for rentals. Like, it's a large thing. So they're taking inventory off the market for that. So it's interesting. So this is a good one where we kind of have a different view on it.
Divergence. We'll have to see.
Yeah. And then, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just curious what your thoughts were on wages, how wages are going to land as well.
I don't know. I mean,
okay.
The problem is I don't think there's one answer. I think there's so much disruption, and then there's such a shortage in certain talent. So overall, wages have been not keeping pace with inflation, but they've been going up. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking wages are still going to rise this year, but it's going to be a tailing effect. I think you're going to see the economy slow down, wages continue to rise, and then I think you're going to maybe potentially, as there's a slowdown, you might see wages fall somewhat.
So I do want to get to the project management thing. So maybe we can end it. I don't know if you have any of these, what I would call kind of an out there crazy prediction. Maybe not crazy, but just kind of. Okay. And I can give you one of mine if you want to think about it.
Well, no. I know your last one was the PCP is gone, and that was the end of last year. The PCP, my PCP still is around. Literally your words, the PCP is gone.
Again, we reviewed this because this is a 2023 prediction. It wasn't even
That's
a 2024
right. That's why
prediction.
I said end of last year, right.
And no, I said it was going to trend towards that. But
your words,
I have a
gone.
positive prediction and a neutral prediction. My neutral one is the most out. So I'll give you the positive one. I believe this year, based upon everything I'm seeing, we're going to have a major health breakthrough of like curing of a major disease.
Ooh, cool.
And I've seen enough evidence with the AI models and all the testing and all that I do think that's possible. Now, whether it'll come to market or not, I don't know. There was a treatment that was 100% successful in eliminating cancer in I think it was colorectal cancer, 100%, every patient. And so they actually, the FDA approved it for breakthrough treatment already. That's how quickly it went.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Yeah. I'll leave my whether I left it as a neutral prediction, but it's a way out there one. I'll leave that one last. Do you have any others that you're doing?
The way out prediction that I have also related to AI is that there's going to be some sort of I'm going to call it and I don't know what form it's going to take, but some interactive service that helps lonely or old people to be able to have interaction. It could be a phone service. It could be, I don't think it'd be a chat function. I mean, you already have ChatGPT or whatever, but I think there's going to be some service provided where AI starts to provide interactive services as simulating human beings for the purpose of helping those who feel lonely to have a simulated intelligence to interact with. Whether or not they tell them that that's a simulated intelligence or not, I don't know. But I think that's going to be something that's going to be available soon. I've seen enough evidence.
What if I told you that already? Like,
it wouldn't surprise me.
So what I would like to do, and I'm still blown away by this the advanced voice interactive mode that I use. I want to do an episode where that's the third party.
This is what drove it. I've seen that, and it's close enough now. I mean, you've seen the ones where they're doing it with the scam callers to occupy the scam callers.
Oh my
Those
God,
are the fun ones, right?
Yeah.
Those are my favorite, with the grandma or whatever.
Yeah.
But watching that and the way that it was able to do that, and we've had, that technology has advanced so well now that it just wouldn't surprise me if you said, "Oh, are you lonely? Here, talk to this person," right? And you just put a sweet grandma or someone who can talk to an AI, and honestly,
about anything, about what they want, and they can tune it towards,
And it would be something that I think could even potentially be fulfilling. I don't think this is necessarily an unkind thing to do, as much as if I had Alzheimer's or something, I probably would want that.
I mean, if any of my relatives would, I'd rather stick them in front of an AI than talk to them. But it's just,
Jim, no, no. My point.
So if I get Alzheimer's, it's not curable. I want someone to off me. Just let me be clear on the record.
Okay, Jim, I'll take care of that. In fact, even if you don't have Alzheimer's, but no, the key here is that I'm thinking more. I think you and I both have similar approaches in that your parents should be living with you. But the key here is that I know there are facilities where there are just hundreds and hundreds of people who
oh my God,
really
they're just isolated. It's a miserable existence. So we should do an episode about that, because have you followed the part about that where now there are kids who are forming these relationships with AIs, and then there's some suicides.
And it's scary. Yeah.
So I think that's a good one. I think formalizing that to make it easy to do. You're right. Like they can, because they're used to dialing a phone or something like that. That's a good one. I'm going to give you my way out there one.
Okay, this is the last one. Let's hear it. I want to hear the way out there.
And then I do want to just loop back quickly into project management, since that's the title of this podcast. But I believe that it's either going to be this year or at the latest 2027. But I believe this year we are going to get the first true proof of the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Oh, okay. Really cool.
Or I'll qualify it, because if we can't wrap our little minds around something that's there, interdimensional being, some sort of other type of intelligence.
What's blue and smells like red paint? Blue paint.
Can I ask how we're going to detect it? Is it SETI? Is it something else?
It will be irrefutable. Now, there's a conspiracy theory out there that the government's going to run a campaign using satellites and other things to actually simulate a mothership and other things. But no, but it'll be irrefutable. It'll be like with our senses, we'll be able to.
We'll be like,
see
oh, that's okay, interesting.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
That's my way out there prediction. And how whether that's positively received or negatively received, I don't know.
I think the first year 2000 predictions that they were doing, where they were singing, I think the guy was dressed as an alien. He had like a kind of
I remember at least
UFO.
With the collar, right?
Like it looked really weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so pull us back to projects before. Right. No, I think that's good.
We've talked. Braden and I have talked about this. We've talked about it in communication episode. We talked about it in a resume episode. We talked about it in the jobs episode. I have to come back to this. It's extremely frustrating. And feel free to leave comments and let's talk about it. But what I've noticed, along with an uptick in the number of people who have the open to work symbol on their LinkedIn profile, is an outward, and I'm going to use this term, about how their job loss is everybody else's fault, and that there's age discrimination. There's other, and I don't mind.
Do people actually do this?
No,
Jim?
It's rampant. It's rampant. And then because there's a lot of other people, there's a lot of likes that go up to the thousands of likes. I don't want to sound unsympathetic or even lacking empathy. I empathize. I've been there. I've been borderline not being able to pay my bills, not feed my kids, and it's the worst feeling in the world. And I'm with you, and I get the market is hard and everything else. One of the lessons you should have learned early on is that you don't expose that to the public, because I will tell you, you're going to go down the list of me hiring people. You're going to move yourself way down the list if you're publicly about this stuff. So the first thing I'm going to say to you, just stop. If you want to talk to somebody, get an AI model, get it out. It is important to talk about these things. Talk to your family. I get it. And it does suck. And automated systems don't work. If you're trying to get a job for $150,000 a year by submitting your resume through a computer, I'm going to promise you that is not how you're going to get that job. It's akin to playing the lottery. Don't do it. There's other things I want to say on that, but that was my first part of it.
Okay, can I also just say, don't also badmouth your previous employer, right?
Of course.
As
yes.
I mean, so whether you're complaining generally, what you're doing is you're painting yourself. You're giving your prospective employer their first look at the type of employee that you're going to be when you're complaining, as well as what they're going to say about you when they complain about their previous company.
Or when asked for a reference or anything. Yep.
Even if you were just like utterly beaten and abused, right? You can just say, boy, it was a learning environment, and find ways to spin it positively, but do not badmouth your previous employer ever.
Especially on a public thing that where people read it and I get it, and it feels cathartic, and it's because other people are relating to you. Like, there's ways of doing that without making that. I don't know. It just seems like something you learn a lesson on when you're younger. I get it. If you've been out of work and you're about to lose your house, or like, get a side hustle. I cannot tell you, if you don't think there are side hustles you can do that can make you substantial money, you are incorrect. Go onto YouTube, search side hustles. There are tons of things you can do to make money, and it's not just driving for Uber. There's other things. Take your skills. There's unique things. Learn something. Do something where it's helping you learn something in the context of what you want to do, a goal you want to achieve, right? So how can I use LLMs to do something I want to do? Or ask the damn LLM how to do the thing you want to do, and you can have a conversation and you'll learn. And the last thing, by far, number one thing, I cannot tell you how you get jobs in this day and age, especially white collar jobs, is networking and relationships. I am an introvert. I find it hard to get out there. I've been out there, and I got to tell you, just in my conversations that I've had, it's opened up unplanned connections with other people and everything else. I'm worried about people who are out there saying I was age discriminated. Like, you may be right, but like, putting it out publicly, you're not helping your cause. So anyways, that was my
tell a friend about it. Don't write it on a public forum. As much as that might be cathartic to you, it's going to damage your chances. At least don't put it on LinkedIn. Although I would say don't put it on any social media, because these days, when you post something on social media, when you do go to get that next job, they'll do a search on all of your social media accounts and they'll see it. If it's publicly viewable, they'll see it. So you don't want to post anything out there like that. Yeah, good call. Jim, you want to do a
for me
wrap up for us? Do you want to tell people that they can still subscribe and they can still
please subscribe, share, and thank you, by the way. I still get, and Braden doesn't always see the feedback because the email changed and things, but I still get people who are asking. We still get quite a bit of views on our past things. Some of them kicked up, which is really, I find it really fascinating. I'm sure some of them over time didn't age as well, but no doubt.
But we still need to do, by the way, another what's our villains and what's the
come on, the Lamentables.
Lamentables, there we go. Yeah. It's been too long.
People really like that. I do want to talk to you about that, because that actually came up too.
Yeah, those were good.
But no, so please subscribe, share. We're gonna get back into this. I talked to one of our friends that we said we want to chat with, so we got to get him on. That'll be fun. I'd love the feedback. So if you think some of these episodes where we're kind of just covering current events, our thoughts on it, who the hell are we? But we just try to make it a little entertaining, talk about it. And they say people get their news now from podcasts. So maybe, I wouldn't recommend getting your news from this podcast, but who knows, if you learned something new, great. But if there are things you'd like us to chat about, please, the interaction, the sharing and whatnot. I have some announcements that are going to be coming out this weekend. that I'm going to share as well, related to companies that are tied into project management stuff. So that's it. Anything else you had that you want to add before we end this really short episode?
We have pontificated enough. I think we're on hour 2, hour 3 now. So yes, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. Looking forward to more episode, getting more episodes out again. And thanks for sticking with us. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.